So we
John,
have to
so
remember
with all
the
the ground
sequence of events.
with all the ground they've been gaining, they must have been absolutely slaughtering the Russian soldiers on the ground, obviously, right?
Or they
Because to
run.
gain ground, you have to
that's
massacre whoever's there.
No, I
They
think
killed a
Russia
lot,
has been
but
retreating, right?
They've run too.
So they've gained ground.
Well, hold on. So
Without
would you say you're
reducing
wrong
the
that,
enemy-
that Ukraine did not have to necessarily massacre hundreds of thousands of troops to gain that ground? Would you admit that?
I didn't say hundreds of thousands. I'm simply saying, to gain ground of the enemy, you have to kill the enemy. That's just
No, that's not right.
In Iraq,
not
we
right.
won the whole Iraq war. The whole army quit, except for a few Republican guards. They all quit.
Yeah, because
Every one of them.
Yeah, because we bombed them to hell. That's why.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
quit
that's
because they
true.
got
The U.S. doesn't
bombed.
win this. The US
But they
doesn't win
also
its
didn't
wars
want to
on the
be
ground, they
there.
win it in the air.
They didn't want to
they
be
got
there.
bombed
Also.
to hell. Yeah.
Okay? The U.S. doesn't win its wars on the ground; they win it in the air. If Russia really wanted
Right.
to,
So,
they would
but,
just
but
unleash their
we're
air
talking
force
about
and bomb the
Ukraine
hell
and
out of
Russia.
Ukraine.
We're talking about Ukraine and Russia, though. Okay. So
Yeah, but you can win.
Ukraine is
by
gaining
retreat.
land. Russia's retreating. Okay, but Russia's not losing personnel. Ukraine losing personnel?
Everyone's losing.
In those
personnel.
offensives, I
This is
don't
a
think
war.
they did. I think it was mainly Russia just withdrawing, right?
But Ukraine didn't
No,
lose.
not in New
The,
Zealand.
the
Lyman. They
main
caught
the
them
main
with their
troop
pants
attrition
down
is in the
there,
places
so.
like Bakhmut, where it's like it's been a standstill for
Yeah,
them.
that's
The huge
just-
territory
that's bad
gains either
there.
way are not coming at the expense of huge casualties, as far as I've heard.
They
As
could
far
fight
as
in
I have,
Bakhmut
they
for
have
10
come at
years
the
and it
expense
would
of
stay the
massive
same,
Ukrainian
just going
casualties
back and
because
forth
they
like
move
Okay.
across open areas and they get bombarded.
Guys, tell me
Okay,
if you
so
agree
if we
with-
admit that, just to continue the conversation, what's your point?
My point is Ukraine then winning if they're losing a lot of personnel to gain this ground without actually doing any physical damage to the Russian military, I guess, machine?
Well, last time I was on, I said the same thing about you have to define your victory criteria. If you want to regain the land and it costs lives, then yeah, that is winning.
It's an
If
objective.
Ukraine's goal is to regain their territory, then regaining the territory is winning. I don't know how else to explain it.
But that's
If
not why I'm
Ukraine
asking
loses
that, right?
10 million troops and Russia loses 0, but Ukraine regains all of their territory, they've won by their criteria.
By that's
No,
but
because
you're
they
drawing a
have to keep
line.
that
Hold on,
territory.
no. You're drawing a line. If you again using this insane scenario, right? 10 million troops. Now you have no troops, and Russia losing 0 can just walk all the way back to the whatever they originally had. So I
Yeah.
get what your statement is, but a victory criteria needs to look at the long term, not just like a single line.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean that was a hyperbolic statement. I don't think you're saying they've lost 10 million troops.
No.
Right.
No. But,
So,
okay, so
I mean,
let's-
the point is Ukraine can lose a lot more troops, but still be winning. And I don't think that it's necessarily the case that if they lose, I don't know, a more realistic number. I think so far people are saying they've lost 100,000, 200,000. I don't
Closer
think
to
that's at the
200.
point where Russia can just walk in and take everything without a fight. So
yes,
the fight's
I
going to
agree.
continue.
That's not there yet.
I agree with you, but the best troops they're going to have are going to probably die once they take the rest of the Donbass. Their best troops, their most hardened veteran troops are going to die. Either die or be severely injured, which is
Well, the
Yes,
Russian,
it's entirely
the elite
possible.
of the Russian
100,000
army's gone.
okay.
They
If you have
died
100,000 troops,
At an airport north of Kyiv.
if you have 100,000 troops that have died since the start of this conflict, that means that even if you're generous and you say half, that means half of those veteran troops have died. Half of the troops that have actually been dead are veterans. You mean tell me you have 50,000 grizzled veteran troops that are dead? 50,000 out of how many? How many active troops did Ukraine have at the start of this war? Active that were veteran
240.
troops.
Active veteran, maybe like 90, 100.
Okay,
It's
so
about
say they have 100,000
250,
veterans.
300,000 at the beginning.
Say
But
they have
that's
100
all personnel. That's not
Okay, but even still,
battle
all
hardened.
right. But that
Trained-
means that you had
trained fighters.
100,000 that were dead. Say you have the law of numbers is what? It's 3-1, dead, wounded to dead, correct? It's 3
It's
to
the
1.
average. It's the average.
Okay,
It's the average.
so say you have 400,000 that are either dead or out of commission. Okay, and even if I'm being generous, I'm saying 50,000 of those were your vets that are dead. You have 50,000 vets left. Your vets, your best troops, are going to be in either Bakhmut. They're probably going to be fight. They're probably going to be in Kramatorsk. They're probably going to be fighting in Liman. Your best troops are going to be right now where it's hottest. They're not going to be near Kiev, worrying about worrying about
Belarus.
invading Belarusians. They're not going to worry about that. They're not going to be in Sumy. They're not going to be in Kharkiv. I mean, they might be. You know, maybe you probably have your best troops also fighting in Kherson. Maybe if they're still doing more offensives there. That's where your best troops are going to be at. They're going to be fighting in the hottest zones, and the troops that are going to be dying are going to be a mixture of the troops that are already your established veterans and the troops that are training in the UK that they're bringing in over to that are being trained, because they're training what was it 10,000 every 3 months was the number.
Well, they're
they put
training
out?
in Spain. They're training in Germany. They're training.
It's like 10,000 every 3 months. It's something like that, right?
Yeah, it's not
You
much.
can't. And if Ukraine is losing troops at a clip of what was the last number? It was like 800 a week, right? Something insane like that.
Those are Ukrainian numbers, so whatever you want to do with that.
Okay, but even if it's 800 troops a week that they're losing, that means they're losing 2,400 a month. You cannot sustain that even if you have trained troops, even if half of those troops are fresh.
Oh, hold on.
Dying.
2,400 a month. If that's your worst case number, that's sustainable for many years.
Yeah, they
What do
have
you
20
mean?
million men in Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean,
But
you
not all
guys.
men are not all
Well,
men.
they have
can
not
fight, though.
spent-
Ukraine is
Well,
not
you
a
can
tiny
keep pulling
country.
Not all
Ukraine
men are
is not a
fighting
tiny
age
country.
men.
You can turn
They've
them
already
in.
had-
No, they're not all. They're not all.
They've already had Ukraine's already had what 18 million people leave the country. 18 million.
Women and children.
Okay, women and children,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
But that would include the number of men that's in there. They include males. When they say men that
Real-
are in there, they're not saying they have
Real,
20
there's
million
zero
fighting against
chance.
men.
Zero
No,
chance.
men
that
of
Ukrainians
military
have
age were
lost more men than
prevented
Russia.
from leaving as refugees. Last I heard,
Zero.
that was a law they passed very early on that men were
Yeah.
not allowed to leave.
But fighting
So
age
if
men
10
just
if
means
10
illegally
million
adult.
people have
That's what it means.
left, that's pretty much all women, children, and maybe old men. I don't know what exactly the cutoff was.
Males of age means that males of age means you're an adult
10
male. That doesn't mean you have
10,000.
fighting capability.
I believe the current draft is going. The current draft is pulling 18-year-olds to 60-year-olds. So I guess that's how you would calculate that.
Yeah, there's 20 plus million men.
Yeah, there's a lot of men, and they haven't left, and they're according to opinion polls,
They're
Ukraine
pissed.
is like #1 in the world right now in terms of who is willing to fight for their country. Like
They're
higher than the
pissed.
U.S., higher than Russia. They're #1 right now.
So let
So
me ask you this: you think that
they're
you
not
think that
grizzled veterans or whatever, but
Okay.
any guy with a gun
Can I
can
ask-
kill
can I
a
just
grizzled
ask-
veteran.
once Ukraine
Right?
hits a million
I ask
deaths,
one
That's-
question?
once Ukraine hits a
Can I
million
ask
deaths,
this
you think there's gonna be
question?
men who want to keep on fighting? Once they hit a million,
Russia will hit a
deaths-
million before the Ukrainians do, and they're invading.
Once
The
they
rich
hit a
You think the
million
Russian
rich
people are
people
going
in
to stand
Ukraine
for a
won't fight.
million dead before the Ukrainians are defending their homes?
You
They're gonna
think
fight
that
Yeah,
to
they're
the death.
defending their
million
homes, guys.
Ukrainians
And
would-
whether you think it's propaganda or not, the
They're
things
not-
that
they're gonna
Russia
fight
has
to the
been
death.
accused of doing in Ukraine, again, whether it's propaganda or not, everyone believes it, right? If you
No,
see these
propaganda.
horror stories about
It's
Buka
propaganda.
or whatever, yeah, and like I said, if you admit that it's propaganda, if all the Ukrainian men believe it, it doesn't matter that it's propaganda. They're still going to fight.
Doesn't
for it.
matter. Propaganda.
So,
their relatives are
I'm not
dead.
arguing whether it's
Their relatives
propaganda
are
or not.
dead.
It doesn't matter.
Bro,
Can I
who's
ask a
buying into
question?
propaganda when they're in a cold ass ditch being shelled? Are they like, oh my
Oh,
god,
you'd be
this propaganda's
surprised.
working. Slava Ukraine.
Rillo,
Yeah, I'm all for
Rillo,
it.
if you think the Ukrainians have
Yeah.
a morale problem, you should look at the Russians. I mean,
Yeah,
they're
the Russians are in the
getting
same
beat with
ditch,
sticks to
also
fight,
dying,
and then got troops behind them
and
shooting
they're
them
not
if they
fighting for
retreat.
anything.